The palace of Vayara was not built to impress humans, yet it did. Tall crystal towers rose like frozen light toward the sky, their surfaces bending sunlight into soft colors that moved with every step. Floating walkways connected halls without walls, and gentle gravity fields kept everything stable. The Vayarans had mastered beauty and control long before humans reached the stars. Kale stood near the center of the main reception hall, hands calmly folded behind his back. He wore a simple dark uniform with no weapons visible. That choice had been deliberate. Humans wanted peace, not fear. Around him, dozens of Vayaran nobles watched with glowing eyes and rigid posture. Their tall forms, long necks, and shimmering skin made Kale feel small, but he did not show it. Queen Alira sat upon a throne grown directly from crystal. She was ancient by human standards, yet strong. Her presence filled the hall without effort. This meeting was the first formal diplomatic exchange between Earth and Vayara. Words spoken today would shape decades. Kale listened carefully as translators hummed softly. He responded slowly, choosing simple words. Humans had learned early that rushing only caused misunderstanding. As the talks continued, Kale noticed movement at the edge of the hall. A small figure peeked out from behind a pillar. The child's skin glowed a softer shade than the others. Her eyes were wide with curiosity rather than caution. Princess Liara had slipped away from her attendants. She watched Kale closely. Humans were strange. Small. Soft. Yet they walked into alien halls without armor or fear. To Liara, that was confusing and fascinating. While the adults spoke, Liara stepped closer, her feet barely making sound. Kale sensed her before he saw her. Years of training on hostile worlds had sharpened his awareness. He turned slightly and met her gaze. She did not look away. Kale gave a small, respectful nod. Liara blinked, surprised, then smiled. It was brief, but real. Before Kale could think more about it, a sharp sound cut through the hall. It was wrong. Too mechanical, too loud. The lights flickered. Several Vayaran guards stiffened, their hands moving toward weapons. Queen Alira's eyes narrowed. From the ceiling, a small metal shape dropped and unfolded mid-air. It was a drone, black and angular, with a glowing red core. Its targeting system activated instantly. Chaos did not erupt. The Vayarans were disciplined. But there was a moment of hesitation. That moment was all the drone needed. It fired. A pulse of energy struck the floor where Liara had been standing seconds earlier. The blast shattered crystal and sent shards flying. The child screamed. Instinct took over. Liara ran. She did not run toward the guards or the throne. She ran toward Kale. Her small hands grabbed the back of his uniform as she pressed herself against him, hiding behind his legs. The movement was fast, desperate, and completely unexpected. A gasp spread across the hall. Queen Alira stood. No one in the palace had ever seen the princess seek protection from an off-worlder, especially not a human. Kale did not hesitate. He stepped forward, placing himself fully between Liara and the drone. He dropped to one knee to lower his profile and spread his arms slightly, shielding her with his body. Another energy pulse fired. Kale twisted, letting the blast glance off the reinforced plating hidden beneath his uniform. It burned, but it did not stop him. The drone recalculated. Humans were not supposed to react that fast. Kale reached into his belt and pulled out a small metal disc. To Vayaran eyes, it looked harmless. He flicked it toward the drone. The disc expanded mid-air into a shimmering field. The drone slammed into it and froze, its systems locked by a human-made electromagnetic net. Silence fell. Then the drone exploded, safely contained within the field. The blast faded, without harming anyone. Kale stayed where he was, breathing slowly. Only when the danger passed did he look down. Liara still clung to him. Her eyes were wide, her breathing fast. She looked up at him, not with fear now, but with trust. Kale spoke softly, knowing the translators would adjust his tone. "You are safe." Liara did not understand every word, but she understood the meaning. She nodded once. The guards finally moved, surrounding them, weapons aimed outward. The queen descended from her throne, each step heavy with authority. Kale stood and gently moved Liara behind him again, not letting go until the queen was close. Queen Alira studied Kale carefully. She saw the scorch marks on his uniform. She saw the way he positioned himself, still alert, still protective. "You shielded my child," the queen said. "Yes," Kale replied simply, without hesitation. "Yes." The queen's eyes softened slightly. "Why?" Kale thought for a moment. Then he answered honestly, "Because she ran to me, and when someone trusts you like that, you do not step aside." The hall was silent again, but this silence was different. It was heavy with meaning. Liara stepped out from behind Kale and walked toward her mother. Before reaching her, she turned back and looked at Kale once more. She raised one hand in a small wave, copying the gesture she had seen humans use. Kale smiled. Queen Alira placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder and faced the court. "Today," she said, "we have witnessed something rare. A human stood between danger and royalty, without command, without obligation, and without fear." Her gaze returned to Kale. "This matter is no longer a simple diplomatic visit." The guards escorted Kale to a secure chamber, not as a prisoner, but as an honored guest. Whispers followed him through the halls. Humans were not weak, they were not reckless, they were something else entirely. And somewhere in the palace, unseen by all, another signal activated. The drone had been a test, and the ones watching now knew something important. The human would not be easy to remove. The chamber given to him was comfortable, made of smooth crystal walls that adjusted temperature and light automatically. A soft glow filled the room, calming by design. Still, Kyle remained awake, sitting near the wide window that looked out over the floating gardens of Veyara. Too many things did not add up. The drone had slipped past palace security too easily. Its design was not Veyaran. It was older, rougher, modified with parts from several species. That meant cooperation, planning. Someone had wanted chaos, but not total destruction. A test, Kale thought. Just as the queen suspected, a soft chime sounded. Kale stood immediately. "Enter." The door opened without noise. Two royal guards stepped aside, and between them walked Princess Liara. She was calmer now, her glow steady instead of flickering. Behind her stood Queen Alira herself. Kyle lowered his head respectfully and stepped back. "My queen," he said. Alira studied him again, as if seeing him for the first time. "You may relax, human Kale. This is not an interrogation." Liara looked around the room with interest, then back at Kale. "This place smells quiet," she said slowly. Her translator lagged slightly, but her meaning came through. Kale smiled. "Humans like quiet sometimes. It helps us think." Liara nodded seriously, as if this was important knowledge. Queen Alira gestured, and the guards remained outside. The door sealed. "You protected my daughter," Alira said, "and she chose you. That is not a small thing among my people." KL chose his words carefully. "I did what any decent person would do." Alira tilted her head. "That is what concerns me." Kale raised an eyebrow slightly but stayed silent. Liara walked closer to him, stopping just an arm's length away. "You were not afraid," she said. "I was," Kale replied honestly. "I just didn't let it decide my actions." Liara considered this deeply. "Then fear obeys humans." "Sometimes," Kale said. "Sometimes it doesn't. We argue with it a lot." That earned a faint glow of amusement from both mother and child. Queen Alira's expression soon hardened again. The drone was activated from within the palace network. Kale nodded. "I suspected as much." "You were not meant to," Alira said calmly. KL met her gaze. "Humans are very good at noticing patterns when something feels wrong." Alira studied him for a long moment. "Walk with us." The chamber opened into a long corridor lined with transparent walls. Beneath them, the city of Veyara floated in layered platforms, glowing softly in the artificial twilight. As they walked, Alira spoke quietly. There are those among my council who fear change. They see humans as unpredictable. They are not wrong, Kale said. Liara looked between them. Unpredictable is bad? Kale shook his head. Unpredictable can also mean adaptable. Alira stopped walking. That is what frightens them. She turned to Kale. The one who activated the drone holds a position of trust. They believed panic would expose weakness. Number 4. And instead, Kale said, it exposed their plan. Yes, Elira replied, but not fully. Liara tugged gently on Kale's sleeve. Will they try again? Kale knelt to her level. If they do, we'll be ready. She studied his face closely. You promise? Kale hesitated. Humans knew better than to promise certainty. But he also knew what she needed. I promise to try, he said. That was enough. They reached a private observation chamber. The walls displayed streams of data, shifting symbols, and security feeds. Elira activated several, with a gesture. This palace has not been breached in 300 cycles, she said, until today. KL scanned the information. His eyes moved quickly, his mind faster. Your systems are advanced, he said, but they rely heavily on assumed loyalty. Elira did not deny it. Humans. Kale continued. Assume betrayal as a possibility. It's not pessimism. It's experience. Liara frowned. Do humans betray each other often? Kale looked at her gently. Enough that we learn to prepare for it. Elira watched him closely as he worked through the data. He did not touch the controls. He only observed, pointing things out verbally. Here, he said. This access code was rerouted. That required authorization no guard would question. Elira's glow dimmed slightly. Counselor Sharon. Kale did not react outwardly, but he remembered the tall Veyron who had spoken harshly about human involvement earlier that day. He believes the throne has grown weak, Elira said. That outside alliances dilute our strength. And kidnapping your child would prove that, Kale said quietly. Liara's glow flickered. Elira placed a calming hand on her shoulder. He will not succeed. Kale straightened. With respect, Your Majesty. He might already be closer than you think. Elira looked at him sharply. The drone was loud, Kale continued. Messy. If he wanted Liara gone, there were quieter ways. This was meant to test reactions. To see who she would run to. Liara looked up at him. I ran to you. Yes, Kale said, and that surprised him. Silence filled the chamber again. Elira slowly smiled, but there was steel beneath it. Then you have become part of this. Human Kale. Kale nodded. I figured as much. Liara stepped closer to him again, standing proudly at his side. He is my shield, she said. Elira raised an eyebrow. You choose strong words. Liara lifted her chin. Strong actions deserve strong words. Kale hid his surprise well. Humans had underestimated the princess. Elira turned away, issuing commands through the palace network. We will act carefully. Sharon cannot be accused without proof. Kale crossed his arms. Then let him think. The test failed. Let him grow impatient. And when he moves again? Elira asked. Kale's eyes hardened slightly. That's when humans are most dangerous. Liara looked up at him with bright curiosity. Because fear listens to you? Kale smiled faintly. Because we listened to it first, far away, in a hidden chamber deep within the palace. Counselor Sharon watched recorded footage of the hall. His eyes narrowed as he replayed the moment again and again. The child had not run to her guards. She had not run to her mother. She had run to the human. Sharon clenched his claws. So, he whispered, the human stays. His console flickered as he sent a silent message beyond the planet. Phase 2, he ordered. And in the glowing palace of Veyara, beneath calm lights and careful smiles, the game truly began. Morning light spread across Veyara in slow waves, bending through crystal towers and floating gardens. From above, the city looked calm, almost peaceful. Inside the palace, it was anything but. Kale walked beside Liara through a quieter corridor, two guards following at a respectful distance. Since the night meeting, Queen Alira had allowed Kale to stay close to the princess. Officially, it was cultural exchange. Unofficially, it was protection. Liara moved with confidence now. She no longer hid behind Kale, but she stayed near him. Her eyes were sharp, always watching, always learning. "You notice many things," she said as they walked. Kale nodded. "It's a habit." "Is that why you knew the drone was wrong?" she asked. "Yes," Kale replied. "Because it didn't belong." Liara slowed her steps. "Counselor Sharon does not belong either." Kale stopped. The guards behind them stiffened. Kale looked down at her. "Why do you say that?" Liara hesitated, then spoke carefully. "When he speaks, the light around him tightens, like he is hiding something inside." Kale felt a chill. Humans used words like body language and tone. Liara described the same thing in her own way. Before Kale could answer, the palace lights dimmed. Not fully, just enough. The guards reached for their weapons. Kale's hand moved to Liara's shoulder. "Stay close." An alarm did not sound. That was worse. From the far end of the corridor, the air shimmered. A section of the wall dissolved, revealing armored figures with weapons designed for stun and restraint. Off-world mercenaries. "Run," Kale said. Liara did not argue. They ran. The guards engaged instantly, energy shields flaring as they returned fire. Kale pulled Liara down a side passage he had memorized from palace schematics. The floor shifted under their feet as gravity adjusted, trying to slow intruders. Kale adjusted his stride without thinking. Liara stumbled once, then corrected herself. Behind them, footsteps echoed. Too many. Kale reached a junction and slammed his palm against a hidden panel. The door slid open just as a stun bolt hit the wall where Liara's head had been. They fell through the opening, and the door sealed behind them. The space beyond was a maintenance tunnel, narrow and dim. Pipes hummed softly. The palace felt very far away. Liara's breathing was fast but controlled. "You knew this was here," she said. "I hoped," Kale replied. The wall behind them shook. The mercenaries were cutting through. Kale scanned the tunnel. "This leads to the floating gardens. Open space. Harder to corner." They ran again. The tunnel opened suddenly, and sunlight flooded in. They emerged onto a suspended platform surrounded by open air. Below them, layers of gardens drifted like green islands. Hovering transport pods moved in slow patterns. Kale spotted one docked nearby. They sprinted toward it. A stun bolt grazed Kale's shoulder. Pain flared, sharp and hot. He kept moving. Liara reached the pod first. She turned and did something unexpected. She activated it. The pod lifted just as Kale jumped inside. The door slid shut. The pod lurched forward, engines whining as it accelerated away from the platform. Kale stared at her. "You can pilot?" Liara nodded, eyes focused. I watched. Behind them, another pod launched in pursuit. The chase cut through the floating gardens. Crystal vines and glowing leaves blurred past. The enemy pod gained slowly, firing pulses that cracked against Kale's shield generator. Kale leaned over Liara's shoulder. "Take us lower. The fields are denser." Liara adjusted the controls. The pod dipped sharply, weaving between hanging structures. The enemy pod followed, but it clipped a crystal arch. Its shields flared. Kale saw their chance. He opened a maintenance panel and pulled free a small power cell. "Hold steady." Liara did not question him. Kale overcharged the cell and tossed it out the rear hatch. It detonated in a burst of light, not destructive, but blinding. The pursuing pod veered off and crashed into a garden platform, its systems overloaded. Liara slowed the pod and landed on a broad crystalline terrace. They stepped out into quiet air. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Liara laughed, a bright, surprised sound. That was exciting. Kale let out a breath. "You handled that well." Her expression grew serious. "They will not stop." "No," Kale agreed. "Which means we stop running." He tapped his communicator. "Queen Alira, if you can hear this, Static answered. The palace network was jammed. Liara pointed toward a distant spire, taller than the rest. That is the high tower. Old systems. Separate power. Kale followed her gaze. If Sharen is controlling this, he'll want to watch from somewhere secure. They moved quickly across connecting platforms, staying low. Smoke rose in the distance, where guards fought mercenaries. The palace was under attack, but not openly. Controlled chaos. As they climbed toward the tower, Liara slowed. Kale. Yes? If they capture me, do not trade yourself. Kale stopped and turned to her. That's not how humans work. She met his eyes. That is why they fear you. They reached the tower entrance. The door resisted, then opened when Liara placed her hand on it. Inside, the air felt older, heavier. The light was dim. They climbed a spiral ramp, footsteps echoing. At the top, they found Sharen. He stood before a wide display showing different parts of the palace. He did not turn when they entered. You exceeded expectations, Sharen said calmly. Both of you. Liara stepped forward. You betrayed us. Sharen turned then, his eyes cold. I protected our future. Your mother weakens our people with alliances. Kale moved slightly in front of Liara. Sharen laughed softly. There it is again. The human shield. He gestured, and armed figures emerged from the shadows, blocking the exit. This ends now, Sharen said. The child comes with me. Liara's voice was steady. No. Sharen's gaze narrowed. You will obey. Liara lifted her chin. I choose. She reached into her sleeve and activated a small crystal node. The tower lights flared. Across the palace, systems unlocked. Hidden recordings streamed live. Sharen's orders. His messages to off-world forces. His plan laid bare. Queen Alira's voice echoed through the tower. Enough. Sharen froze. Guards stormed in from below. Sharen looked at Liara, disbelief on his face. You planned this? Liara nodded. I watched. I learned. Kale smiled faintly. Sharen was taken away, shouting promises that echoed uselessly. As calm returned, Kale looked out over the city. The palace still stood. Liara stepped beside him. You said we would be ready. Kale nodded. We were. Below them, the queen approached, pride clear in her posture. And for the first time, Veyara understood something important. The human had not only protected the princess, he had helped her become one. The palace of Veyara was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. It was not the calm of ignorance. It was the calm that followed truth. Sunlight flowed across the crystal halls as guards repaired damaged platforms and security systems reset. The air still carried the memory of danger, yet order was returning. High above the city, the floating gardens drifted back into their natural patterns, as if the planet itself had decided the worst had passed. Kale stood on a wide balcony overlooking the capital. His uniform had been replaced with clean diplomatic clothing, but the marks of battle remained faintly on his skin. Humans healed fast, but memories stayed longer. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. You should be resting, Queen Alira said. Kale turned and bowed slightly. I will, Your Majesty. Soon. She joined him at the balcony edge, her gaze following the city lights below. Councillor Sharen has been removed. His allies have been identified. The threat is ended. For now, Kale said. Alira smiled faintly. You truly are human. Liara stepped between them, her posture straight, her glow steady and confident. She no longer looked like a frightened child. The events of the past days had changed her. They will remember this, Liara said. All of them. Yes, Alira agreed. They will remember who stood when fear arrived. She turned fully toward Kale. You did not have to stay. You could have returned to your people the moment danger appeared. Kale considered that. Humans have a saying. When you see a storm coming, you don't ask whose house it will hit. You help build shelter. Liara nodded as if committing the words to memory. Later that day, the great hall filled once more. Nobles, council members, and guards gathered under the towering crystal arches. The atmosphere was tense, but respectful. News of Sharon's betrayal had spread quickly. Kale stood alone at the center of the hall. Queen Elira rose from her throne, her voice carrying easily. Today, we speak not of betrayal, but of unity. She gestured toward Kale. This human arrived as a diplomat. He became a shield. He became a guide. And without claiming authority, he helped preserve it. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Liara stepped forward, surprising many. She stood beside Kale, not behind him. I chose him, she said clearly. Not because he is human, but because he acts when others hesitate. The hall fell completely silent. Elira raised her hand. From this day, humanity will not be seen as fragile visitors. They will be recognized as adaptive allies. She turned to Kale. Human Kale, step forward. Kale did. On behalf of Veyara, Elira said, I offer you the Starbond Accord. Gasps followed. The Starbond Accord was an honor, reserved for those who had saved the throne itself. Kale accepted the crystal emblem with both hands. I accept, he said simply. On behalf of Earth. Applause followed, not loud, but deep and sincere. After the ceremony, Liara walked with Kale through the quieter halls. Will you leave now? She asked. Soon, Kale replied. That was always the plan. She stopped walking. I do not like that plan. Kale smiled gently. Neither do I, but humans and Veyarans have more work to do together. She thought for a moment. Then, you must return. I will, Kale said. I promise to try. She accepted that, just as she had before. As Kale prepared to depart, his ship waited on a high platform. The city glowed beneath it, peaceful and strong. Queen Elira and Liara came to see him off. You changed my daughter, Elira said quietly. No, Kale replied. She changed herself. Liara stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, awkward but sincere. Kale froze for half a second, then returned the gesture gently. When she stepped back, her eyes shone. Next time, I will protect you, Kale laughed softly. I look forward to it. The ship lifted into the sky, carrying Kale back toward the stars. Below, Liara watched until it vanished. Weeks later, messages began arriving on Earth. Trade routes opened. Shared research. Joint defense discussions. Human analysts reviewed the reports and reached the same conclusion. The Veyarans respected strength, but they trusted character. On Veyara, Liara stood before a group of young nobles, recounting the story. Not as legend, but as lesson. Courage is not loud, she told them. Sometimes it simply steps forward. High above, the stars burned quietly. And across the growing alliance, one truth had taken root. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the largest. But when a child ran toward danger and chose to hide behind them, even queens learned to trust what stood there.